The battle is over. I have won. Yaira is dead. But so are the 3 visitors. They were fools to follow me here. They did not know this world, and I was able to use it to my advantage. I managed to live amongst these humans for eons without my true nature being exposed. Stefania changed all that. She's my flesh and my blood. She is like me. I could not save her, Abuela, and now she hates me. I'm alone in this world. Anyone who gets close to me dies. No, Yaira must stay dead. I have searched for him for years in this place. His existence has become something of myth and legend, leading me to believe he perished long ago, or abandoned this cruel world for another where life is not so fleeting. When I had given up all hope, when I was ready to die and join my loved ones in Valhalla, when I stopped looking for him, he found me. Neptune lives, and I will find him. I have to. If only I could break free of these endless nightmares that have plagued me since my last battle. Every night, I die, and I watch my family die. Over and over again. My greatest fear is that somehow, some way, with all his dark magics, he survived. My old friend, the one who betrayed, the Black Sorcerer, Magus Newmight.
What is up, everybody? Second Rippaverse Roundtable. I hope you're all doing well. I know we got started a little bit late. I will take the full blame for that. I had some tech issues there. Had to restart the PC, but we're live. We're moving around. We're good now. We're going to be discussing today a bunch of Yaira, just general Yaira talk. We're talking Yaira too. We're talking really everything Yaira today. So I appreciate everybody. Thumbs the video up if you're hanging out with us, all of that good stuff. I know we've, since the last time we were here, there's been some videos put out. We put out the review videos. Appreciate all the participants. I say that you just uploaded and we kind of just share and send a boost to your channel. But thanks to everybody that's reviewed Yaira number 2. We also today shared some unboxing of Yaira. I was going to have that plan to share, but it's too just over that mark of as far as how large the actual file is. So I couldn't get it up. I was going to show that before the stream, but thanks to everybody. We still have some of McFarlane Toys Yaira statue, the first ever Yaira statue. If you want to go grab that, it's actually back there hanging out. But go grab that if you have not already. Just lots of stuff happening right now with the Rippaverse. We, of course, appreciate each and every single one of you for all the love and support. We got Great War Separation 2. We have that's active right now. We have Zaylan that's active right now. And, of course, we have ISOM number 3. Before I go round table, I do want to give you guys an update. I know today the team is getting prepared for Ripazine issue number 3 to start shipping soon enough. So they are getting those CGCs ready to rock. And then those will be going out soon enough. So we appreciate all of your patience, and you're finally going to be able to read Carol Brown's Dirty Deeds. I'm going to go around table now, of course, joined by all these lovely members of the Rippaverse. They help this go around. This is not a sort of one sort of man show here. It's a lot of moving parts here, and everybody here does their share of heavy lifting. Of course, I'm joined by Andrew, creative manager, man. What's up, bro?
How's it going, brother? It is great to be here. Sorry I couldn't be here last week, but I am stoked to be here of all weeks talking about Yaira.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I know you gave us a heads up that you wouldn't be able, had some prior obligations, wouldn't be able to be on the first one, but we're obviously happy to have you here, especially to talk about Yaira. A lot of you guys know Andrew's been a part of the team for a very long time, since the from the get-go. in some capacity. And obviously, we appreciate his contributions here. Of course, also joined by the writers of Yaira, which we will be talking today. Jen and Sylvia Saska, what's going on?
Hi! We're so glad to be back, boss. Thank you for having us. We love this new Roundtable show.
Yeah.
Let's go.
A bunch of NDA stuff I definitely can't talk about now that Andrew's here, but those new books sure look. Wait, Andrew, this is safe. Those new books sure look cool. I was reading something that you wrote, boss, and oh my gosh,
I'm having some fun.
So the guy with the thing, I didn't know what was going on, and then the thing happened. It was like, oh, that's why he has the thing.
Yep.
Oh man.
Awesome. Okay, I love that you're starting by giving Andrew a heart attack right away. Wait, this is 3 spoilers, right, Andrew?
Right? Not quite. But we are obviously all talking Yaira too. But yeah, there's a lot cooking in the background. I do want to bring up that I did make a post. I never do that. But I made a post and kind of I got overwhelmed. Actually, I will be working on this after I get out of this here show. And we have a lot of hungry artists that would love to do some work for the Rippaverse. And it's really cool to see. Obviously, Kanan's been helping as well, kind of cycle through some of this amazing talent. Yeah. But also, the reason I bring that up is because I have, along with everybody here, we've been doing obviously a lot of creative stuff behind the scenes for future work to come. And I'm really, really excited for this year. We are kicking it in yet another gear. Obviously, we have a bunch of Rippaverse stuff. Yellow. I know a lot of people have been asking about Flash's Mighty Golden Patriot. That's almost done. We have some final edits that we're doing, but it's almost ready to rock. Can't wait to get that going. But it's a lot of stuff happening right now with the Rippaverse as well as Rippaverse, and I'm very, very excited. And of course, lastly, guy I've obviously admire so much, my man's Kanan White, art director over here at the Rippaverse. Man, how you doing?
I am doing good, man. This is a record, man. This is like.
You don't do this a lot, but
no, it's fun though, man. Like when it to me, it's like going to like a panel, comic panel, and when it's what you love and what you do every day, man, it's natural. So, it's not sure. New, so I'm excited, man. I'm excited to just be amongst such great creative people.
Plus Andrew.
Whatever, you too, Mug.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Oh man, no, it's obviously, man. Appreciate everything Kanan does, man. And I guess we'll get kind of right into it. I'm gonna go ahead and share. We're gonna talk everything Yaira, and I'm gonna start it by. Let's see. Let me pull up some stuffs here, and actually, that's where we're gonna start with what the ladies are showing right there, and that's
boom,
cover A,
sweet green and white cover.
We're gonna talk everything Yaira, obviously, with as far as Yaira 2, excuse me, but just like we did with some of like the Great War as well as Blood Ruth, just to give everybody kind of some creative insight as far as what happened here with the creation of Yaira. Yaira was one of the early characters that I also created with the Rippaverse. There were some family members that I created for like ISOM that some of you finally got to actually meet in the Great War of Separation #1, but she was one of the first early characters that I obviously had created, and I wanted to give her a very unique background. We'll talk about this as far as some of the spoiler talk that we're going to have with Yaira 2, because the sisters excellently, by the way, sort of wrote in some of her background into that, or at least you saw some of that. There's more to come, obviously, but you got a little glimpse of it in Yaira 2. But I was trying to flesh a lot of that out. I wanted to give her sort of this unique background. Obviously, you knew pretty early on, definitely if you got some of the cards, that she's not just a regular age sort of super heroine. She's been around the block, to say the least. And if you've read Yaira #1, you for sure know that, because that has been confirmed. And I wanted to she's like I don't want to say the yin to the yang of the Isam, because Isam's a very grounded character. He's not like this super old character. You actually see a little bit of his youth in the Great War, but then you have this character that's more almost mythical in a Yaira, at least according to the people within the Rippaverse that are going to be referring to her. She has a lot more going with her in that she is obviously not from Earth. But I teamed up with, this was one of the designs, and I think I've mentioned this before publicly, that Marcos, big shout out to Marcos Rios, he took a big lead on her overall design. I did, as I do with everything, I give him basically an outline. Okay, I wanted her to be blonde. Obviously I wanted her the whole bit of her powers being activated, and you're seeing some of her finger and hair tips start to turn blue. All of that stuff was my idea, but I wanted this sort of iconic feel to her suit. And big shout out to Marcos, who's in the chat, by the way. He took the charge. He took the charge on that and giving her this awesome suit. Now, obviously, again, we're talking about some of that in Yaira number 1 and Yaira number 2 and how she obtains that. But you got to see, even with the launch of ISOM number 1, her in her uniform, even though you technically don't see her in the actual interiors of the book in ISOM 1, you see her at the end, Cliff drew. So he's one of the first interior artists that had a chance to draw her in her suit at the end of the ISOM when we say, hey, she's going to be back or whatever. But in it, you see her just in sweatpants and a little tank top. And yeah, she drops obviously ISOM down and what have you. And you've seen that in animated form, live action form, and all that. Actually, multiple times in animated form, you've seen some of that. But yeah, it was a character that I needed to obviously weave in as well. Now, I will say this. Her introduction is in ISOM number 1, and I had it that whole thing was planned with Alpha Core, and obviously, but I didn't know how much people were going to be kind of clamoring for her, so we kind of had to speed run her introduction as far as giving her own book. And as I say all the time, that first market reaction that we got with her poster that you see behind me there, outselling ISOM's poster doing ISOM 1's campaign. And that let me know everything that I needed to know. We're very much a customer-oriented company. So I was like, oh, well, I got to start fast-tracking stuff because they love this character. Shout out to the Saskas for taking on the project. And as the professionals that they are, they wanted to know the character before they started writing. And they took all the notes and everything, and then you have them, of course, adding some context to Yaira and some of the characters that they did create, like Stefania and what have you. And it was really fun to read Yaira number 1, though we've already done our spoiler talk with that. It was really fun to read the first script come back and seeing them add some context to some ideas, basically fleshing those ideas out that I had, while also again adding some new characters and even new background that I didn't come up with regards to Yaira. So I figured that people would love her. Didn't know they would love her that much, and we of course sped her on her book needing to drop in the Saskas. They did an excellent job. Big shout out to Deborah Carita as well. And we've already talked about it during the first spoiler stuff, but I don't think Kanan was there. And before we talk about this lovely cover here, I would love you, Kanan, to kind of go into some detail there, because a lot of people don't know that, we've talked about this publicly, that we had, before we brought you on as the art director, we had some general art for some of the pages. And then you come in and you're like, look, we can do better as the art director, which is your job, right? That we can do better. Let's go back to the drawing board for some of this. And you've elevated her so much as an artist. I would love for you to give some context to the audience kind of for that. And also speaking to her level of professionalism to be open and willing to obviously elevate herself to this lovely art that we've seen, obviously in Yaira 1 and 2.
I think the biggest thing, I guess, without making it too lengthy, first shout out to Deborah, man. She has quickly and easily become if when you guys see the newest stuff, she's easily become one of the best artists at the Rippaverse, and that's not even a joke.
I agree.
There's a cover that's going to drop. Not going to NDA it, but you're going to be like, dang. So yeah, I mean, it's like something that probably I would have did, or any of the other guys and gals on this team. But basically, with a lot of artists and a lot of what makes I say the Rippaverse different than a lot of the bigger companies is that because we're smaller and we're growing, and I don't think we're going to lose that either, just because of the way we as we grow.
Right.
The one-on-one ship with the artists, particularly with like I said, with Deborah, man, I got to really work with her to just really pull out what was already there. I think a lot of times, I know when Rippaverse started, ISOM was the focus, and so even though we did, we were working on Yaira, it kind of didn't get necessarily the focus. So like anything, like you just kind of like, okay, I'm just doing a gig, I'm just doing my work, blah blah blah. But she needed to know, okay, you have the chops, you have the skills. This is good, but like you said, it can be better because I know what you can do. And she was teachable. That to me is huge. Like being teachable. You got artists, that like to fight back. And you're like, well, no, I've already drawn this, and I'm not doing it. I mean, I admit to being, I will fight for an idea.
Yeah, for sure.
that I've done. But just her teachability, her passion to really like take ownership of Yaira. We always joke about Yaira drawing Yaira, but I mean, essentially, she put her best foot forward, man. And so, like somebody told me, when you're creating, don't try to perfect, get better with the next page. And that's what she did. And like she went from page to page, we went through it together. And all I did was really just like, point out like things that could be enhanced. But for the most part, like, I mean, that I was just the what do you call it? The counsel. I really, she did all the work. There was all that stuff going on about, I was
apparently Kanan is the like ghost drawer or some dumb shit. Like bro, what?
Like first of all, it's like our styles don't even match.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, and so but you see, like when you actually give an artist the attention, and a lot of times that's what I'm saying. A lot of times with the big two, that doesn't happen because it's a machine mindset. You're just pumping out material and pumping out product to make the money and pumping out product and so a lot of times artists, they get burnt out, they get overlooked, they get lost in the credits, like all these different things happen, and a lot of times they just got to take it. It's like, dang, man, okay, well, note to self, I'm not gonna do that again. But with Deborah, man, it's like the potential was always there. She just need to know that somebody cared, and that's with all of our artists. Cliff the same way.
Absolutely.
From ISOM 1 to ISOM 3,
ISOM 3 looks so
is like
good,
a freaking level up.
Yep.
And even the artists that are already good, when they see the quality that they've done, for Goody, think of Will Conrad and Joe, like Horseman is awesome, but Zaylin, my God. So like in the same thing with with Will and some of the NDAs that he's
some of the
on.
NDA stuff he's working on. Yep.
Yeah, Andrew, I didn't say nothing. But he's gotten better. And that's how it should be, man. And I think when you have everybody really, pushing each other is like healthy competition or healthy growth, it's inevitable to grow. And even as writers, you guys can attest to that. Working with Chuck Dixon and the Soskas, Eric, you gotten better. I mean,
yeah, true. I agree.
Working on Searching, man, was such a smooth ride, bro. Like it was just like I could see like every aspect of, when we got to the fight scene, I was like, yeah, I want to make this work. You know, 'cause so many times you see people create something and it's just like, okay, yeah, but I want to make them feel the punches. And so, you know, but yeah, Deborah she's an amazing artist, an amazing heart, man, workhorse, like a mug.
Absolutely.
And will adjust and change and tweak and on a dime. So yeah, shout out to the entire Yaira team, man, to make these books what they are. So
most definitely, and big shout out to her, because people got to see, or are being able to see, some of her work with the art book that she has, right? Seeing her like original pencils, right? Much like you see with Joe, and you can really just see just how crazy talented that she is. And I'm so you know, blessed, obviously, to be in this position where we have this team mindset where nobody's really taking anything and shouldn't be taking anything personal, and understanding that we all have a common goal of trying to be the best versions of ourselves for our customers. And like, to your point, Kaden, not everybody is like that in mind, right? They can be very combative, you know, when the goal is to, you know, we're all going at the same place. And it's to, you know, see a bigger and better Rippaverse. And she has been open for that. She was one of the first artists that, you know, you had a chance to work with when we brought you in that more official, in an art director role. And just to see how much she's elevated herself, and then seeing some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at here in a bit with Yaira #2 has been just absolutely excellent. And it's just fun to see. Andrew, you've been here for a minute, obviously.
Just
been
a
here
minute.
just a little bit. So you got to see kind of a lot of this stuff play out the way that it did. I would love to know your thoughts, 'cause I don't think I've ever asked you this, about like how we launch ISOM, we see the reception of Yaira. Was that something that you anticipated, that we were going to have that reaction that we had, that required us internally as a company to really start to, as I said earlier, fast track her first book? Or was that something that was like a surprise to you as much as it was myself?
It wasn't a surprise. It's funny, neither of the things that, you know, the mainstream will say might, you know, be accused of as being a surprise or what have you, didn't surprise me one bit. You know, we launched ISOM, our flagship hero is a black guy, right?
Yeah.
Nobody gave a crap about that. We're just like, okay, cool, interesting story. Book does 3.7 million. Black main protagonist, nobody cared, right?
Yeah.
We have this secondary character that we introduced in the book, Yaira, beautiful, powerful looking, kind of Amazonian, Wonder Woman-esque character, super interesting design. People wanted to know more, right? I wanted to know more. So that didn't shock me either. Everything we've done has just been a testament to like pushing against all the stupid narratives that always get thrown at comic book fans. Comic book fans just don't like female characters.
Right.
Where have you been? I've been reading comic books since the early 90s, and I was reading comics from the 80s and 70s prior to that. Like, what are you talking about? We love female characters. We love black characters. I'll give you a twofer. Aurora. Storm is one of my favorite X-Men, right? Like, nobody cared about that. And so when Yaira popped off and ISOM popped off as super popular, I wasn't shocked in the least. It was hilarious, and I wanted to interject while you were like telling the story of, you know, how, you know, Yaira really kind of popped out for the fans, and we had to like fast track her book and all that. I was like, yeah, I remember having to fast track a freaking t-shirt in week 1 with Igor and be like, hey Igor, I need you to whip up I need you to whip up a t-shirt in like 5 minutes, bro. Like,
that's true.
And you know, poor Igor, and God bless him, man. Like, he was breaking his wrist through that whole first campaign. We were crushing milestones faster than he could draw them. And that's a great problem to have. But no, it didn't shock me at all. You created some fantastic characters in terms of like their stories, in terms of their concept. And then we have our amazing concept artist, Marcos, and he did an absolute banger job with Yaira's story and her design. Like, if you guys want to hear a little bit more of a breakdown of the story behind designing Yaira, check out one of our most recent episodes of our artist podcast. He actually goes in depth on that.
Like I said, he was one of the he took the lead. That's like, it's fun creating with Marcos because we have this kind of opposite rapport. This is why he's still to this day my main concept artist, because he just gets it. Yep. But yeah, like that was the care. Like obviously I took more of a lead on, but Yaira was more of his as far as the design is concerned. And I mean, he absolutely killed it. Like there weren't that many touch-ups. Like I said, my contributions were more to her color scheme, bouncing ideas off with her color scheme, and obviously the hair and the nails, obviously powers, like all that substance was there. But as far as like the overall design, I have no problem telling people that's for the most part Marcos. That was all him. My contributions there were like, okay, what if we do this? What if we do that? But he came up with that, and he did a phenomenal job there. And I saw the design, and I figured immediately like people were gonna. I was like, God, they're gonna love that. I know it was what I was thinking. I'm always thinking about this from the writing perspective. I'm like, how do I weave in making that make sense for the audience, right? Without giving away too much, because it's not her book. Right. So, we were able to show off like with the poster, with the shirt. And obviously we're at the very end of ISOM #1 so people could see her in her actual uni without having to go too much in detail. And like I said, the Saskas did a great job of just like again expanding on the character and giving depth to the ideas that I had that were more surface level. And they're thinking about more of it like, well, we have to make that make sense, right? Sure, it is, and that is happening, and that, or she does have that, but we also need to give it some substance, and they helped a lot with that, with Yaira 1, 2, and beyond. I guess I know I've asked you this a million times, but just for the sake of today's show, ladies, I would love for you to kind of go into detail, because this is the first project that I officially pitched to you guys, was Yaira, because Yaira. And again, something that I knew early on, I didn't want her to be like this. We had ISOM for that, like former hero and all that. She's a very self-motivated person. She's not a bad person by any means, but she's acting in her own self-interest for a lot of what she does, right? And she's not just as cut and dry, black and white hero. Like some of maybe the other characters, like an Alpha Core and what have you. So she has an edge to her. She can be a bit of a wild card, not only just to herself and everybody around her, but to just the general overall Rippaverse, considering what all she can do. And I pitched the idea to you because I figured, well, this is obviously a character that you can handle, because it's not going to be just straight up and down. What was going through y'all's mind? What was the process? All of that good stuff, and how you wanted to kind of conceptualize Yaira #1, her general story, because to you, as you guys always say, you love to write her Yaira 50, Lord willing. But yeah, what was going through y'all's head? I pitched y'all the idea, and feel free to go into as much detail as you want.
Well, I remember as soon as we saw ISOM 1 and we saw Yaira and she just took off, I remember Jen saying, "Oh man, I wish I could write that character. It's so cool."
Yeah, we weren't invited to the party yet. We were just on the sidelines being like, "Oh, I love Eric. I hope that this little comic book does well." I was like, "I hope he hits that 50 grand." And
right.
Yeah,
you did it.
Beyond.
You did it. Congratulations.
Just squeaked past it.
Right? Well, it was so nice because we connected when we were doing our Black Widow run, and that was kind of like, well, there's a transition going on with Marvel. Us and the team that made that comic book were really big comic book fans, but as we saw some of the characters around us changing and kind of the marching orders, we were like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And then you started reviewing the comic and it was like, "No, there's still cool people out there. This dude's super cool." And it was nice to come on to Yaira because a lot of the time we get hired because there's a problem.
Yeah,
and we need to fix the character. Like when we came on to See No Evil 2, they're like, "Oh, we forgot to mention his name in the first movie. Can you reintroduce that?" We're like, "How do you forget to say the character's name?" Like,
or with Black Widow, they're like, "Do you remember Black Widow used to be cool?" And I was like, "Yes, I do. I don't know what y'all have done to her, but Black Widow was always cool to me. I don't know what direction you've gone in where she's just whoever's girlfriend of the week. That's not my Black Widow. My Black Widow is like a female Punisher, but a little bit nastier because she doesn't have the fallen family. She's she's just one bad bitch.
Yeah, she didn't really have a family. She had that whole Red Room incident.
Yeah.
And well, so you gave us a lot. You had so much going. You told us that she never plays stupid.
Yeah.
You told us that she was confident. You told us that the first comic that we have is how she gets her costume. So we're like, oh, that's really cool. It's like Daredevil season 1. So it's not quite in the thing yet.
You also said she's beautiful and she knows it.
Yeah, which was
nice. I remember that. Yeah.
Which was so nice because a lot of characters, I don't know if you, chat, have noticed, a lot of characters that have been traditionally beautiful are no longer. I mean, I always found entertainment supposed to be fantasy fulfillment. So the girls are gorgeous and muscular and beautiful because, you know, girls want to be strong, but they also want to be loved. Yeah. And, you know, if you're beautiful, you get loved a little bit easier. And the guys
are fine, man. Make them fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? There was a lot of really interesting stuff, lore that already pre-existed. Like, I loved what she did to Isom. You kind of knew what her character was, that she tried to murder the lead guy, and that she didn't even care. There was no anything about it. And then when the Alpha Corps showed up, she already had a history with Brian Solari. So
that was very cool.
So it was interesting that they fought to a standstill. So it meant to a certain extent, this is somebody Yaira already knows. And another person she doesn't necessarily get along with.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that she had things that were working against her because she's so powerful. There had to be things that would bring her down to earth in a sort of way. And she had such a terrible attitude. We were like, let's make Stefania. Let's make somebody who's even less in control than Yaira. And you had such a good input on her in that character of how she actually has this kind of like starting in a really low place and kind of, well, you know, very reluctantly building out, climbing her way out of it.
Yeah, Yaira is the stereotypical ice queen, but it was very important for us to create her motivations as to why she became cold.
Yeah.
In my experiences, the coldest, meanest person you know used to be a really open, kind, generous, loving person, and they got really, really hurt. And that's why they're kind of distant, kind of removed. And early on, you told us about Altona and how she lost Terald and how she's like a single mother and she's a widow. And she still has the last name of Daniels because, you know, that's still fresh for her. And we thought, hey, there's nothing worse than losing your family and losing your loved ones and putting that kinship between Yaira and
I love that so much.
Oh, thank you. We wanted her to have a best friend because we're like, damn, Yaira is lonely. And she also needs a vulnerability. Loving somebody like how she loves Altona, almost like a sister, that makes you vulnerable. And Yaira needed a few more vulnerabilities. And then Stefania is her giant vulnerability.
Yeah.
But you really set it up for Yaira and Altona to be friends because you put them both in Projexis. So what was going to happen? They're either going to hate each other's guts or they were going to find something similar. And I loved how she got injured. She snuck in bleeding to death. And Altona's there trying to figure out something because Altona's a really smart woman. And then she looks over and she's like, oh, Dr. Rodell. And she's like, whoa, Dr. Rodell. And he's all like, no, don't bother with me. And she's like, I'm gonna sew you back together. And when you first get her introduced in the first comic, she's talking about Projexis. She gets the tour. She goes to the sub-zero cryogenic bottom layer. And that was us setting up that I can't say completely every backstory of Yaira, where she comes from, what's going on, although boss, you knew exactly where she came from and what was going on, and that was really fun to play with. So we're like, okay, let's set the tone so the fans get to get little pieces of everything so they can start putting together like, who is she? How do her powers work? Why is she so old? What's the deal with the coldness? Does she like it? Is she from somewhere cold? I don't know.
I also love the setup that you gave that she was a biologist and archaeologist. And it was like, why does she study those two things? Well, she's been here a long time, so she doesn't even really have to be studied. She's just like, oh, I saw this one time and I saw that over there. And I was there during this war. So yeah, I'm just kind of know a lot about human culture.
Yeah. And we wanted everybody to be like, wow, Yaira's so cold. She's so badass. Like, she's blowing up people as many times as she humanly can. She's telling Magus Numite he's going to die screaming. But before she goes for her last battle, where she's like, I might not make it through this, she doesn't tell anybody her backstory. She's just thinking about her family before she goes back to Hekla, which is one of the world's most active volcanoes, where she just so happened to get married when she first came to Earth, when she met her Viking king, Gorm, which we thought was a really romantic way to show, like, she was a warrior her whole life, and then she met somebody and actually fell in love. And there's this line where she said she never felt it before, and she decided to drown in it, and she just put her mission aside. I think everybody, when they fall in love, they can relate to that, where they're not thinking straight, they're obsessed, they're so happy. You think that happiness is going to last forever, especially if it's one of your first loves and you don't think anything can ever hurt you. And then you realize that it can. And that kind of heartbreak, you can carry that around with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, in the first book, it was really important for us also that the audience was kind of catching up with who Yaira was, because she's already existed. Right. And you get to see who she is through Yantony and Unessa and Magus Numite and Stefania and Altona and even Brian Solari. And then very personally, you see who Yaira believes that she is. After that's all been set up, then Yaira too, you know the characters, you know crazy people. Like the fact that all of you can pronounce Magus Numite, I'm very impressed by it. I'm very impressed, because now people say Magus Numite like he's the guy.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And again, I just love working with you all, because it's like it's a seed, more or less, I'm planting. Like I have all these ideas, and I'm knowing that I'm passing this project to someone else, because I got ISOM and I got this other stuff that I'm doing. And so for you guys to be able to flesh out those ideas, obviously I appreciate it big time, but you add a layer of depth to it that, again, it's like, well, I didn't think of that. Like that, I didn't think that it was going to play out exactly like that. But I love it. I love everything about it. Like probably my favorite is, to your point and what you brought up about, you have their connection, right, whether they knew it or not. And Altona and Yaira was that they're both basically widows, right?
Yeah.
And I just love that. I love that so much about it, about both characters, really. And that's an easy way for them to, like, obviously kind of understand where they all are at. And it was really cool to see, like, the actual family, right? Like that you guys helped create some of the individuals in the family. And yeah, I mean, you can imagine, obviously it's a little different, right, with how Altona's husband dies versus hers. And you can make the argument with hers, it's quite the experience because of who Yaira is, as far as her physicality. She's able to live this long on Earth. And it's like, I can imagine that, being that old and watching your, like, children, like, even just pass away. Like, that is a layer of depth that I love that you added to the character. And you can just steal, even though a lot of us have not, will never experience that, obviously, but you can just imagine just how that would play on your psyche and how you interact with other individuals. And she's always having to carry that with everything that she's doing, because she's been around for so long. So
it did something that was so important for her character, which was it humanized her.
Yeah, most definitely. Right? Because she's powerful, right? She's
powerful, but she's also a bitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Like, and like, she's, but two things to be true. She's beautiful. She's cool, but she's also a bit of a bitch. Yeah. And, and I think fans, picked up on that right away, but it was so good what the twins did with, we knew that Altona had lost her husband. Right. And one of the most, like, empathetic and compassionate things that just, as humans by default, that we do is feel that empathy and sympathy for somebody who loses a family member, right? Whether it's, a direct relative, a grandparent, anything, right? Husband, wife. And so obviously we feel that for Altona. Now you give that to Yaira as well. And so that gives them not only that bonding point that you were talking about, but that also brings Yaira down a little bit to a place of humanity for us to kind of feel for her a bit there and be like, oh yeah, you're still kind of a bitch, but damn, like, I kind of get it though.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's the contextualizing that, right? Like, she's cold literally in multiple ways, right? And she does have that wild card bitchiness to her. But what happens, especially with Yaira 1, is that you understand why. Right? It's not just bitch for bitch sake, but unfortunately we see that a lot, especially female characters these days, coming out of a lot of mainstream product, and that it's like they're just acting that way just to be acting that way. Right. Whereas with this, it's like, well, no, this is a core part to her. And then you're looking at that just objectively, like, well, shit, if I probably experienced that same thing, I'm gonna act the same way, right? Like,
yeah, can I say I would do better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Can I would I be any better having experienced all that? Probably not. She's probably carrying that a lot better than any of us ever could if we experienced that.
Her story reminds me of when I was, anybody who listens or watches Lord of the Rings, there is I guess they're like the unpublished works of Tolkien, but it was a thing like what happens after Aragorn became king, and I didn't know this, but it was one of like the saddest things I think I've heard in Lord of the Rings. Arwen lives forever. That she's an elf, so she has unnatural life, and so Aragorn, who also had unnatural life because of where he came from, but he wasn't immortal. So he lived like 200 and some odd years, and then he passed away. And one of the saddest things is like before she was so full of so much grief that she couldn't stay in Minas Tirith, is where he was from. She left and she went to all the places that her and Aragorn met, and she stayed there. And so she went back to Lothlorien. If you know where that is, that's where Galadriel lived, and it's empty because the elves are gone. And so then she goes back to Rivendell. There's nothing there. Everybody's gone. And so she walks the halls of Rivendell, and then finally she goes to this enchanted forest and just lays down and dies.
Wow.
And it's just like, you think about like you said, Eric, like seeing so many people pass away. It's not surprising that she's jaded.
Right.
And that she's frustrated and that she's angry. And it's just like, you don't have anybody to talk to, or people that you do try to confide in, they don't live long. So having, like you said, having Altona there as a really that sisterhood, is vital. It keeps her grounded too.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that conversation came about, because Altona was fighting Unessa Yantani and Magus Numite, and she blew up the oil field. That's where Terrell died. That's how the conversation happened there.
Right.
And even when she was fighting Solari, he's like, do you know how many people are injured? And she was like, only 3 that mattered. And then once because she knows Altona and she has a relationship with her, and then she says, that's where my husband died an honorable death. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a person I care about. And now it's not just like, oh, these people don't matter. The people here, that they do matter. And at the very end of Yaira, she has she makes that volcano erupt. But she doesn't want to hurt anybody in the city. So all of a sudden it goes from, I don't care what happens to anybody else, to, oh, I don't want my actions to hurt anybody else. And that's Altona.
Yeah. Good. That's a gal. And it's like, again, I love the way that it plays out. But I do love, and I think a lot of y'all can feel me on this, especially you all in the chat, seeing where mainstream has taken just like the male female sort of relationship, as far as like they act like it's something bad, right? And being in a relationship with someone, right, and loving them, right, like the opposite sex. That's just an absolute problem. They feel like they have to diminish the other. And what I love about both characters, obviously, and that's their way to connect, is that they really had obviously they cared a lot for their significant other, right? And it impacts them to this day, right? So while they aren't around, obviously they still are sort of carrying that with them, and the actions, and then how they are and why they are the way that they are. And it just it gives context to that. And in a day and age where so many you get these female characters that seem to just hate dudes, that's like their only reason for existing. It seems to sort of spite the opposite sex. Whereas with this, it's like a way for them to still be empowered, still to be intriguing characters. But it's a lot of even reasons as far as to why they are the way that they are has a lot to do with their significant other, because it wasn't a toxic relationship between themselves and again their husbands. So I love that so much about both of them, right? And that they carry that and they acknowledge that. We see it to a different degree in Yaira, because we actually see that play out. We see her fall in love. We see kids being born. We see her fighting with her daughter, like all that. I love everything about that. And unfortunately it sets you up because you know what's coming, because it's like, well, they're not around anymore. There's no way that they could possibly be around anymore. So while that relationship was great, it was awesome. And just she also has to carry that. Well, I love them, and because I'm the way that I am, I can't experience that, you know, through the entirety of my own life, right? Maybe the entirety of theirs, but not you know, mine, and that has to suck, especially as a parent. I can imagine. So yeah, again, just we get so much in Yaira, just one, and just her backstory. It's a great 96 pager. You guys can go still get it, of course, in the Rippaverse store. But I do want to move to Yaira 2. We'll talk everything Yaira 2. I'm going to go through some of the panels and stuff. I'm first starting with the cover, right? Because you do see at the end of Yaira 1 where you have the whole volcano incident. She goes in the water, right? And then that just idea, we take it to you guys, not we really, because I had nothing to do with it, be completely honest. The sisters take that general idea, and now we have Atlantis, and we're talking Neptune, we're talking all these different concepts that it's our play on it, but it's fun. You see the trident here, which people know Neptune for. What was your idea going into it with this cover, Kanan, and that people saw this obviously, and it gives them some not a whole lot, but it gives them just a little something as far as what to expect going into Yaira number 2.
It's honestly, man, because it was cool. like we've seen her in the sky. We've seen her, freezing things and and manipulating the weather, but we haven't seen this. So I knew once people saw this cover of her underwater, and before they even read it, they're like, okay, what is that? And why does he have a sword and a trident? What is all this stuff? And so, talking about Atlantis and and all those different things, man, that this book kind of talks about without giving out too much, man. Like I really wanted to show, like she is, I had in my head almost like those when you see those like Greek statues that are like underwater for years and years, and they just have this like stoic, ancient vibe to it, man. And so Yaira is essentially like a pillar. She's a stalwart, and so showing her really in her other element is something that I really wanted to do. And of course, like I said, I kind of had in my head, there's a cover that one of the big two did where I think it was Namor, and he's underwater and he's sitting on the throne. And I always thought that was cool. Yeah. And so I was like, to have that kind of element for Yaira, man, and really like show, one, her power, and then like I said, another side of her is, and she feels royal. She feels like, I can do some things underwater too. So
yeah. And again, seeing that as a fan, I can only imagine you guys just the level of intrigue, because again, you saw the underwater, you saw her get saved. And now you go into this cover, you're like, oh, well, something. And I definitely after reading it, right? It's only 48 pages, but guys, wait until Yaira 3, because holy shit. Excuse me. It's a lot going on there as far as you're going to learn a lot about Yaira. Let's just say that. But no, seriously, as far as this book is concerned, I love, like, you can probably understand this, chat, in that you have a different appreciation for the cover after you read the story and you see where that goes, right? So, I read the story, then I come back to it. It just really encapsulates everything as far as the direction that we took Yaira in general and her going underwater. We're going to go to some of the other panels here that I want to make sure we go to. You guys started this with this nightmare. Now, we pretty much acted a lot of the stuff out in the trailer, right? You got this another nightmare. Big shout out to the voice actress, did a phenomenal job there. Have the opportunity to be working with her some more. actual Scandinavian woman, and I love how she voices Yaira. Nonetheless, what I mean, without giving so much away like that, it goes post Yaira too, I guess. You started off with a nightmare. Which is, again, like the audience doesn't know that. They just see her, right? And it's like seeing her family die and all this stuff. Like, what was the idea there?
Well, we wanted to open the book with a bang.
Yeah.
We like to write our comic books like our movies, but without a budget.
Yes.
And let me just tell you, this whole exploding volcano, hell rising up, that's expensive. That would have been like impossible to do in a movie. And I like practical effects, so I would have actually had to wait for an erupting volcano to actually make it happen.
Far too dangerous.
It's setting up, I'm not going to go into Yaira 18, although I'd love to. But it is this page and this situation is setting up something that once you've read the entire book, you'll be like, oh, okay. I get why that is happening. Also, we went to such high places and such epic events in Yaira #1 that we wanted to be like, hey, guess what? Yaira #2 is not, it's going to still fuck hard. When we worked for Marvel, one of the things they said is the hardest thing in the world is to get someone to pick up issue 2 of something, because issue 1, it's always bought, and sometimes they said not even read. Yeah. Because people just collect #1s because they know that #1s are,
worth something.
Yeah, but we wanted people to be like, hey, Yaira is always going to give you high action, and it's going to be this really exciting fantasy, almost mythological series. And we wanted to bring you right back into her world where it's like, damn, it's already exciting. Like on page 1, I'm already caught. I'm already intrigued. We're really earning that 16+ rating as well.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like Halloween too. The first Halloween happens. The second one, you're in the hospital and you're like, how does it affect her? Like, she did all that stuff and she's so cool on the exterior. Under the surface, how is this actually affecting her? Like, she relived a lot of stuff she hadn't been thinking about in years. And remember when on Magus Newmite she showed up, she said it was good to see him, sad to see who he was aligning with. She knew that dude from something else.
Right.
There seems to be more going on with what Yaira did before she met Gorm and started her time in this place. That
nice
right Andrew's right there, man. Andrew's right there. And maybe these things are weighing on her. There's a reason she wasn't flying around in a Yaira costume being like, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing. There's a reason she was laying low and didn't want people to know who she was. She seems to, even though she murdered Yantini and Yanessa like anybody's business, seems to be a little bit of a problem that she did such a thing. It seems to be weighing on her to a certain extent. And when you fight a wizard, a black sorcerer, that's not straightforward. That's still kind of like tugging on her. There's still some concerns about that, and she doesn't know if he cast a spell or did something before it was done. So she's trapped in this waking nightmare that she can't get away from. And as soon as she wakes up, she's like, I've been having it every night. And I don't know if anybody here has ever had insomnia or had repeating nightmares. I remember I used to have a nightmare that was repetitive for like almost a year, and I was like, man, it really wears on you. You wake up and you're like, oh no, I know it wasn't real, but it still felt very real.
Yeah, and to touch on one thing that Sylvia said, the continuity is so important. It's part of our code of ethics here at the Rippaverse. And I can't tell you how many times I would read a comic book and something happened that you would be like, oh shit, that really matters. And then in the next issue, nobody's acting like that thing mattered at all to them. And it was, like a big life-changing thing. And it would piss me off because when I was little, in between comic books, Sylv and I would like make up the stories of what would be happening with the X-Men. And we're like, oh my gosh, this happened and this happened. And then now Wolverine's going to have to do this and Rogue's going to have to do that. And then you'd get the next issue and you're like, well, what is this?
Yep.
And it bothered us. So to make this weighing on her and to make it be like, oh, wow, issue 2 is like standalone enough that if you, for whatever reason, just dropped onto planet Earth and picked up a Yaira 2, you're going to be able to catch up because they all are contained in that way. But if you've read Yaira 1, it's really enriched because your investment into her story is going to be paid off in the other books that you read. You're never going to read a book that's not going to matter in a Yaira story.
Exactly. And we loved watching what Deborah did, especially for the action. So we got greedy.
Yeah.
We got really greedy and we started thinking of scenarios we just wanted to see Deborah draw. Like,
there's one thing in Yaira 3 that I was like, that was too much. We've asked
for too much, and then we saw the page come back and we're like, oh man.
Yeah. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, it starts off with an absolute bang. And again, you're reading this from the audience perspective. And definitely if they had some context to Yaira 1, they're like, what's going on? They're seeing some of the characters. Obviously, if you have the Joe Bennett cover, you see some of this stuff, and it kind of alludes to it where you see the 3 visitors back, and you're like, well, wait a minute. I thought she dealt with them before. And you're right. You're dealing with a black source. There's got to be something else lingering. The guys don't just go away that easy when dealing with that specific type of character, right? So, you know, she's dealing with that during this scene and others where, you know, she's having these nightmares. And a lot of you all, let me actually move on kind of to some of the next scenes here in a bit. But yeah, she's like, you know, it's almost like she's like, to see the scene right here, like, for example, where she's watching her family like die in this freaking volcano or this fire, like, and she can't save them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She can't do anything about it. And you can just imagine having that freaking nightmare, definitely after having all that lived experience that she has.
Yeah.
Like, that has to do something to your psyche, right? It absolutely has to. And
she had such a nice time at the volcano. She killed 3 people she hated. She had such a nice volcano murder experience. Now it's ruined.
Yes, it is. But just moving on, just kind of real quick, because obviously throughout the story, she, you know, at the beginning, where she obviously she wakes up, we see her visiting her newly acquired suit and whatnot. But simultaneously, because of what happened in Yaira number 1, we have the Stefania thing going on, right?
Yep.
And Stefania obviously has it out for Yaira because she thinks she's responsible for the killing of her brother, right? And still, though, and giving her this second chance because she was a young punk, Alpha Core is trying to tame her, right? And hard to see, you know, how well that's going on in like a scene like this. But you open up, like, obviously she's this young cadet, very, very rough around the edges, and you know, both Ingrid and Brian are like, look, like, you got to get this shit under control, right? Like, straight, you absolutely have to get this under control. But you can still see just like this through the emotion. I love how this whole thing plays out. Like, this is the first time we see her in the book, so it's like not anything that we just forgot about, right? Like, it's a pretty big deal. Offspring, she finds that the offspring exists, and obviously because of what happened in that book, she got a little chip on her shoulder, a big chip on her shoulder with one of these major characters. And I love that you're kind of weaving this in, this almost side story into the main larger story with Yaira, because you look, it is a big deal. It's a big deal in both ways, not just with her own story and the story that is obviously going to be told as far as those two in their relationship, but just with Alpha Core, right? Where you have this young cadet that you're trying to, that, you know, has similar powers to someone as strong as Yaira, and you're trying to tame that. And obviously it's just not going to be a straightforward process at all. What was it like writing this scene, really seeing, you know, young Stefania's edge, let's call it that?
Go ahead.
I
feel bad for the gym equipment and Ingrid. Like, I don't know how she pulled the short straw for that. I feel like Braxwell just walked away from the problem. I mean, it's like Stefania totally forgot she was about to be sent to prison. She was begging God. She was praying for a way out. Solari heard it and took mercy on her. And he's like, there's another way you can actually work to get the quote unquote read off your ledger. And she she's still pissed off, and she's saying she's gonna murder Yaira, but she's so angry because she saw her abuela die in front of her. She said that she was safe. She said all these things. She wasn't prepared for this, and it's like she's mad at the whole world, and she doesn't know who to direct that towards.
Yeah, it's also really cool to see characters like Ingrid and Solari having to deal with Stefania. If you guys have read The Great War, and The Great War 2. No spoilers for Great War 2 hasn't shipped yet, has it?
No, not yet.
Just
not quite. Not
I
quite.
would just say, in this, Brian says he knows about being pissed off, and he does.
Yes, he does.
He really does have, he's been there before. And even Ingrid has such an edge to her, but here she is, the voice of reason, being like, listen, you need to stop this because it's this or jail. I don't know where you're getting that, you're just going to walk off and kill Yaira. There aren't those options for you, Stefania. You do not have a bright future outside of being on the Alpha Corps. We've all vouched for you. And man, she's really like testing their patience. One of my favorite relationships in cinema was Callisto and Xena.
Yeah.
And Callisto, she was a child when Xena ravaged her village. And she grew up to be this warrior to take Xena out. But by the time she got to Xena was not the same person that she was going after. And she felt this incredible guilt as to, well, I got to stop Callisto from doing this, that, and the other, but it's my fault that she's become this person. And you definitely see that with Stefania and Yaira, because Stefania thinks that Yaira is this person. But as it turns out, Yaira is the complete opposite. Yaira loves her so much she would die to protect her and do anything to take care of her. And she is living with this incredible guilt and pain that she wasn't able to save Carmen, her grandmother, Abuela, either. So you see the simmering pot also, that Stefania, even though everyone thinks Yaira is dead, Stefania's like, no, I know she's alive because I'm going to kill her still.
Yeah, and one of my favorite characters to write is Brian Solari. He's so accidentally hilarious. Like, he comes in here and he's like, you need to cool off. And she's like, is that a joke? And he's like, what? And she's like, because of my power. He's like, oh, it doesn't even occur to him. He's a straight edge, normal dude. And he has so much endless patience with her. I feel like Brian feels like if I can get through to Stefania, maybe I can have a conversation with Yaira one day.
Yep.
And he takes all of that world of experience. Definitely, guys, pick out Great War, because that is some excellent Brian Solari, and you kind of see why he's this guy, where he got that skill set, how he can deal with difficult situations. Because Stefania is not the first hothead he's ever had to deal with.
No, and sorry, not sorry, Andrew. There's a moment in Yaira 4 that happens to Mari. It's gotta be one of my favorite moments ever. It's just so beautiful. I'm sorry, Andrew, but I have to, because I keep forgetting what book it's in, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's in 4. I can't wait to get there. Because
why am I even here?
So that's as much as I say.
And also to the art, I like how as Stefania grows as a character, so does her hair.
Yeah.
Because like she had like the whole punk thing, and then she started like, who knows? Will she be, church appropriate one day? We never know, but it seems like, she's growing.
Yeah, she's an obnoxious girl that had the most obnoxious haircut originally, and now it's like she's
I like it, man, because like it's one of the things where, even though people mature and and they grow up, they don't lose their edge. A lot of times they're still, so even though Stefania is growing and learning, she's still edgy, she's still aggressive, and I think it's gonna work in her favor in the long run. So yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. You talking about her being kind of a loose cannon. She one of the reasons why she can't be, I mean, you're a cop. We're not gonna put you in the field and you killing people.
No,
like that
probably
doesn't work.
That.
Yeah. So
that'll earn you more than just a little red tape.
Like,
all of Alpha Corps.
You have trauma and you think the person you trying to arrest is Yaira, and you start beating them to death. It's like, like you can't, PTSD. So yeah.
Well, so that point, Kanan, like maturity isn't losing an edge; it's just knowing when to leverage it.
Right.
Jordan Peterson famously says that you shouldn't. it is not all of a sudden morally better to be weak and tame. You should be able to be a monster, but you just have it under control.
Yeah.
Amen.
Controlled rage, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see how obviously the character develops to, you know, where she gets to, if at all, to that point to where she can get that under control. And you can imagine someone again as powerful as Yaira being able to use those powers definitely to I guess assist Alpha Core. Just makes for interesting story in it of itself. I do want to talk about this sort of elephant in the room because everybody talks about how Yaira, or I said Yaira draws Yaira, but Deborah draws
Same
the
thing.
female figure. Yeah, is it not the same thing where again with the expectation that you have from mainstream, where I think that's why a lot of the Rippaverse stuff is refreshing, that the female characters can look like female characters, right? It's more common that you see the dudes can look like dudes, but for whatever reason, people have, especially a lot of these younger artists have shied away from that. Maybe it's because they're being told by the kind of corporate heads, and that there's something inherently wrong with being, especially like beautiful as a woman. And you know, looking at obviously it's superheroes that we're talking about, they're in tip-top shape, especially someone like a Yaira, who, you know, core to her, you guys brought up, that, you know, she knows what she is, right? She very much knows what she is. And Deborah, to her credit, is like, all right, I'm gonna draw like a woman. Like that's just what I'm gonna do. Like that's what she does. Like it's not really under the instruction of anybody particularly. I think she appreciates it as much as anybody, that she's able to look, I can draw a female that looks like a female, right? And nobody's gonna tell me, well, that's a problem, like maybe they would with another publisher. But you know, I love this scene mainly because again we see her go in the water, right? Like we see her like you know, she having nightmares or whatever. She's like, all right, I'm going for a dive, right? And she goes for a nice little swim. I don't think I have one of them saved up, but I do want to talk about that a little bit. The introduction to Joshua, you guys, what was that all about? Because that, newsflash, everybody, I didn't create that character. So that was a character that was fully conceptualized by and I guess we can move on to, at least because I do have a scene where we see them at like the younger versions of them. What was like, I guess, that you guys were trying to accomplish in including him, especially being able to see a young Yaira who is obviously not of Earth?
Well, you know, when you're writing a character, especially someone super cool, like when you're writing like a Fight Club, you don't follow Tyler Durden, you follow the narrator. You tend to follow a character that knows the character so you can get a better insight to who this person is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to know that Yaira had a friend.
Yeah.
And to know that her friend followed her all the way from wherever, and that they came from somewhere where Yaira wasn't supposed to fly, but as you can see, they can both fly. They have these powers, and it's very interesting to know that something was going on where they came from, and for some reason, they weren't allowed to reach their full potential. But Yaira said she was born to fly, and it's interesting because she's not just flying right now. She's kicking ass, and she really got to a certain point. And even at the very end, like Yoshua's crying. He's terrified that Yaira is using her powers. So it kind of gives you an idea. And when you see Yanessa and Yantini, they're pissed. They're really pissed. Oh, hi, baby. I love you. They're really pissed at Yaira for using her powers, for procreating on the planet. They're calling her children abominations.
Right.
So she comes from somewhere where there's some pretty heavy rules, and they kept wanting to bring her back to humiliate her, to bring her to heal. What kind of place was that? And also that plays into what kind of character Yaira is. She's obviously been hardened for a certain reason. You want some bacon? Yeah, you go boy. Yeah. So that was a huge thing of it. I think you guys are going to really get a kick over Yashua in the next book. We're huge fans of anime, and I love stories that seem to have a long route. A lot of stories in anime are about best friends and people who are very close. My entire existence is with my best friend. So this one. So it's really easy to draw from.
I also thought it was fascinating because we set up in Yaira 1 that she's lonely, that she doesn't have any friends, that wherever she's come from, she hasn't been there for a very long time. She mentioned that Magus Numite was a friend, but seeing the kind of insectoid that he is, you got to question what kind of friendship that is. And here we pay off like, hey, guess what? She has a friend. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of really exciting fan theories about Yeshua and his intentions. And people brought up a good question. Where was he the last book? If he followed her this whole time, why didn't he come out before? And you're going to find out all of that.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And if I can talk about the booty for one moment,
please.
Hey, man,
I always thought that it's such a sexist. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I always found it was such a sexist argument when women were like, that's not body standards. That's not realistic. Wolverine has muscles in places you don't even form muscles.
That's
and
true.
you don't have men looking at it being like, oh, that's unrealistic standards for men. They say, bro, I got to hit the gym. I got to find wherever that muscle is.
Yeah.
Ladies, this is a public service announcement to do your squats every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all only need to do 50 squats a day. And let me tell you, it pays off. I love what Yaira looks like. I mean, I will never look quite like Yaira, but I can try damn hard to try and get there. I love it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and we heard that from the fans. People kept saying, does she own a swimsuit? Should she go swimming? And we were like, what a great idea.
We've already learned that Yaira likes it cold, right?
Yeah.
So she can't sleep. She has a nightmare. We're better to cool off than like diving into the ocean. She's looking for Atlantis. So, oh my gosh, how embarrassing if I can't find it. So she just dives in. She's like, boom, I found something like for thousands of years no one could find. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then she's back up at the shore, but she's also careless. She didn't look to make sure no one was watching. And of course, Yashua's there. And you have a good moment where it's like, is she in trouble? Is she fucked? And then it's a complete 180 where it's like, oh my God, this is actually a good thing. It's her friend. She just throws herself into his arms and says, I'm so happy to see you.
And you never see her smile. That smile's so big on her face. Like, she just, her guard comes right down, and you've never seen that with her before.
Yeah. Like I said, I just love seeing in general, love the introduction, to, again, both characters are cool, but, it seems like they obviously have a past there, and we see a bit of that in one of the flashbacks, with them at a younger age, and it just tells in that even just one page that we were just looking at, you just see so much. Right. I can pull it up so much. Like, this is just one page and it's telling you so much. Definitely, if you see the lettering where it's like, he's essentially pleading like, hey, we're not supposed to do this, right? Like, we're not supposed to be doing this. And he's just seeing this last panel. He's absolutely freaked out. That he's doing something that they're forbidden, that apparently they are forbidden to do. And it says just so much about where she had come from. And all that just in this one page. It was a great way to do it. Well, it shows so much, and it tells so much in showing so much, even though yes, the dialogue helps it, but just in looking at that, you just learn so much about Yaira and what she is, and really where she comes from. There's going to be a lot of story that's going to be told centered around this. So obviously, we go with the story. We get some also expansion of projections, right? We do see some of the characters that we got introduced to in Yaira number 1, as well as even obviously Altona makes an appearance. You see some more of Lincoln, and then you see almost like, as you would expect, this internal sort of conflict, right, between with this corporate entity like a definitely in doing what it does, biotech in Projexis. And Yaira is still definitely up until this point relatively new, like as far as an addition to the team as the consultant, right? So she's like, she doesn't have everybody on board.
No,
right?
That's true.
And that's a big, massive part of this story, if you can kind of go through the creation of obviously some of those characters. As I said, these are characters that Lincoln and character I created, but the others that definitely with this expanded sort of projections, you see projections in its presence in an entirely different country, which is really, really cool. What was the idea around that?
Well, it's fun because they go to Projects Spain, and as soon as Javier Cruz comes over to meet Sally, he says, "I'm not a fan."
Yeah, straight up.
It's funny because like it seemed like Sally Riddell had a lot of fans. I mean, Jerry was a little skeptical, but he didn't really have he didn't go over and say, "I'm not a fan of yours."
You can tell he loves her now. He thinks she's great. He thinks that it was just one issue that he's like, you know what? I looked at her and I thought, Lincoln, what are you hiring?
Yeah.
What is this? And then he's worked with her a little bit and he's like, she's great. No. She is great.
She makes us money. I like Dr. Sally. This is a good addition. And to go over to why Javier Cruz doesn't like her, we have this reporter, Carrie Jones, and she says that this is somebody who does stunts for attention, that Dr. Sally is into pseudoscience, that she was looking for Shambhala. Like this is a crazy person that's now working for science. But the readers know that this is Yaira. If there's something mythical that she says exists, she's probably right. There probably was some Yaira business that went on with Shambhala. That's why she didn't discover it. She even says, "Oh, it still awaits. Funding fell through." Who knows? Maybe Lincoln's going to pay for that next issue. You never really know. But
you never know.
It's nice because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Man, there was not an issue where the Daily Bugle had a nice thing to say about him.
There you go.
Taking the photos. It's nice to put Sally in that situation where ooh, you have job problems, you have optic problems. Not everybody is a fan of yours, and not only is it a huge mission to you to go to Atlantis and hopefully find Neptune to get some answers about what was going on, now you have people literally breathing down your neck waiting for you to fail.
Yeah, I love having a character that seems as powerful as Yaira and giving her actual challenges. Part of the reason I loved Buffy so much is because half the episode, her ass was being kicked. Yeah. And then she'd somehow overcome it. The fact that Yaira, and even as Sally Riddell, she doesn't just have an easy walk. It just makes it more of a likable character for me. And also, she's really good in the face of the media. She could easily turn to this pink-haired bitch and be like, you know what? Shut the fuck up. I'm a doctor. You respect me. I have degrees, bitch. What did you go to journalism school? Like, what is this?
Yeah, sit down.
What do you have? A TikTok? Leave me alone. But she's very well spoken, and I respect that about her. Again, you get to see who she is through her interaction with other characters.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, I mean, you can imagine though, I mean, it really brings it down to earth. As far as who she is, even though she's not of Earth, so no pun there, but you can imagine if you have someone that's taking on these big challenges. I mean, it would be like that in the real world, right? Where you'd have your skeptics, right? Not everybody's going to be on board with everything that you do or want to do, right? And especially when you're dealing with this level of like journalism. I mean, that's very realistic, if nothing else, where you have someone that's being very presenting their side of it, and it's it might be heavily biased to the opposite way. But that's kind of, again, the expectation, especially when you're front center in that spot that she's in. And I love that, you know, again, it brings her down to earth and makes her far more relatable. That Yaira's this extra powerful person. She asked Sally, you know, that her little moniker there, and not everybody's on board. Like, just because you're in this like comfy kind of position, working with this company, not even within your own company, not everybody's on board with what you're doing or your vision. And I just love that about kind of what we're getting out of this story, because she has a lot going against her, right? She has this Yaira thing, but she also has a lot going against her as Sally. Just as Sally, it comes with its set of so many different challenges, and this is a big one. This is a pretty big one, and it's a very realistic one where you got someone with pink hair screaming into a microphone like
what? I've never heard of that being
right. That's not realistic at all. Who would ever do anything like that?
You guys, it's a fantasy. We made it up.
Spending too much time on the internet, Eric. No, it's actually another great thing that humanizes her even more and makes it even more realistic, because obviously this is comic books. We're dealing with fantastical things, everywhere we turn. However, you still have to have some grounding things there that allow the audience to like be able to relate to the fantastical, relate to the aspirational, relate to the things that this is impossible in the real world. But because you have enough of a grounding area there that people can relate to in their real lives, it makes it more realistic for them, more relatable because of that. And so Yaira having people that are around her in a general vicinity, whether it's at
haters
Projexis in Flores Park or Projexis, in Spain, that are a part of her own company. This is part of reality. Not everybody is going to like you. There is not a single person on the planet that literally everybody and the Brothers Goldfish likes them.
They didn't like Jesus,
without exception.
That tells you.
Jesus has people that didn't like him. Keanu Reeves has people that doesn't like him. Henry Cavill, like all the most quote unquote likable people you could try and name off the top of your head. Somebody doesn't like him, whether it's a valid reason or not. Somebody don't like him. So it makes all the sense in the world.
Keanu Reeves and Henry Cavill, like the holy
Yeah.
trinity.
Those are like
those three.
Those are probably like the most likable people, and they're still hated.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you put that you put that absolutely perfectly. So obviously you have they're going for this dive. They're gonna go try to find Atlantis, right? Kind of this more or less this objection. Objective. Like, let's say this though, it doesn't quite go according to plan.
Calamari.
So you have this big thing that creates some problems there, and there are some other slides that I'm going to show as well. And man, what I love about this story so much is that underwater, it's just a world of its own. I was reading this story, and even I'm coming up with some ideas of like what all we can kind of entertain, because there's just so much going on down there, as you could possibly imagine. But yeah, man, this giant octopus thing. What was the thought process? And by the way, big shout out to Deborah for just fantastically just.
Look how detailed that sucker is.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, so they run into this this thing, and what was the process, or what was the thinking process around that, and having them run into not just this, but their set of challenges underwater.
Well, I love a comic book where you get to learn something. There is a certain level of the ocean that is called the abysmal zone, and that's where some weird shit lives. And one of the weird things that live down there are colossal squids. And I thought that was really cool, because most of us will never go under there and will never experience it. And if I was making a movie, man, it just wouldn't look right, it wouldn't be perfect. But when Deborah Carita does it, it's absolutely perfect. And it's interesting to see Yaira and Yeshua, who also has Yaira powers, have to take this on. And Yaira knows what a squid is, and she knows what a colossal squid is. Yeshua has no idea.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell is this
thing is? He doesn't even know. And when he asks what it's doing, and she's like, it is preparing to eat us. And he's like, you have to be joking. And she's like, this is no joking matter, Yeshua. He has no idea. He's never seen a thing like this. So it's kind of exciting to have him like Captain America, fresh out of the ice, kind of like, what is this place that you've decided to come to, Yaira? It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, like in any like RPG, you go into the water, there's gonna be a kraken.
Yeah,
that's how it goes. And we're like, how cool would it be to see Yaira fight one? And what would that even look like? Like when you're as powerful as Yaira, you keep having to think up larger than life challenges, so it feels like it rises to what she has as an ability to take on.
Yeah. And it makes all the sense in the world, because like, as someone brought up in the chat I saw there, I mean, it's again realistic. We don't really know what all the hell is under there, right? It's so undiscovered, and man can't go down there at all, and Lord knows what is down there, right? And it's very much believable that probably the further you go down, the more you could think in that pressure and all that, like what types of things, if living things are under there. I could believe there's this giant ass octopus or squid that's down there doing some crazy. I don't want any part of it, and I'd prefer that obviously he stays down there. All of them doing their thing, but you can imagine just when you're really doing a deep dive with the powers that both of them have, they're going to be able to do that because they're not just regular people, and there's probably going to be some things down there that can put up a decent fight. And I loved seeing that sort of play out. I have another one that I want to share because I love this character. I love where the character. Well, let's say that I love where we're going. Let's just let me say it that way. Not giving too much away. This is where the story really starts to kick up. So just lay it all on us. I mean, this. I hope. Well, it's a spoiler stream. It doesn't really matter. Spoiler for at least Yaira 2. That is.
Only 2, I swear.
Only 2. Only 2. Got 48 pages to work with. I bring that up because, like, obviously, there's more story to be told in Yaira 3, which will be out soon enough. All this conflict. We're meeting new characters down here that are in a more like, I guess, humanoid form. What was the thought process? I ask again.
Well, there was some stuff that you told us when we first took on the character about her motivations, what her overall goal is. And so we put as many obstacles in the way of that as humanly possible, because then it would be one book and it would be over and there'd be no more Yaira.
Yeah.
We thought it would be so interesting because she really wants to find Neptune and have a word, especially since she's wearing his armor now and he saved her and then just kind of disappeared. What would happen if he wasn't necessarily the person she thought he was?
Right.
And it's like Spider-Man 2. Peter's in love with Mary Jane. Doc Ock is in love with his wife. How they deal with their love is completely different. How Neptune deals with being on this planet and not having the same life as his beloved, he makes some bad choices. And you see that in what happens with Cleto and their sons. This is all drawn on mythology. There was a Neptune. Mm-hmm. He did have a Cleto. They had a dozen twin sons, which I was like, oh, that's so crazy because we're twins too. What a crazy coincidence.
It's also interesting to see the reasoning of a god type character, because I always think it's strange when you have a character that is with Neptune and Yaira, you know, they live longer than normal people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least that much has been established about their characters. And Yaira took one direction with Gorham and her family. I mean, she didn't try anything. She just accepted nature as it was, and she was very sad about it. She was heartbroken. It affected her very much. The reasoning of Neptune was that I can keep the factory and I can always make more kids. And you see that it's played back in a horrifying way.
Absolutely.
What you might have seen as a twisted version of love. Any normal person would look at this and be like, this is horrible. No wonder your wife is mad at you. She's never going to forgive you for what you've done. It's just such a dark turn. But even though with the dark turn of what Neptune has decided to do to keep Cleto, to keep her from leaving him and keep her from being lost or succumbing to nature, there is love there. There's absolutely a desire to be able to keep her forever. And then, you know, Yaira can almost reason like, oh man, I would have never done that with my children with Gorham, but I can definitely understand the fear of losing someone and a life that is so precious.
Right.
Yes, Bruce. Yes.
There's lots to say.
He's really passionate about Yaira too.
Yeah, he's a big Neptune.
Can't blame him.
He couldn't believe it himself. He was very upset. He's very upset. I'm sorry. Wait until Yaira 3. It gets better.
Yeah,
it gets better. You're gonna be okay.
He's gonna be upset by Yaira 3. Are you kidding?
Yeah, he actually. It might be. He might be a little.
You're too young. You're too young for Yaira 3.
So again, I love all of that, but what I really like is that the reader is trying to figure out when you have this, and Yaira explicitly talks about this nightmare magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're reading this and you're like, what the hell is real versus what's not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is she seeing versus what she is not seeing? And that's what I loved about it, because I know it from the script perspective, but from the reader's perspective, it's as again intended. You're seeing a lot of like, well, wait a minute, is that what she's really seeing? Like, well, what? And so they're forced to have to again, alongside Yaira, you can argue they're working themselves through like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we see her kind of emerge from the water, and we got all this stuff. I love how beautifully like acted the scene sort of is and drawn. And then we see Magus Newmite again, right? And I love that because I mean the audience has asked for him so much. It's like he can't just go out like that.
And everybody loves him. I don't know. I don't know, chat. What's going on with y'all?
He can't just go away. He can't just go away. Not like that. You see the big hand going to grab her. I don't think I have that scene pulled up, but just like this, we see another conflict essentially between her and Magus Newmite. I know that a lot of Yaira too, you had sort of mapped out, but I would like to know is some of what you have planned, at least for the character. Is it playing into the role, or are you playing into, let's say, the fans and some of their desire to continue to see this character for, again, whatever reason? He did some really fucked up stuff in the first one, but they're still like, he can't go out like that.
Yeah.
He can't go out like that, and you've come up with these creative ways to have him still kind of lingering around. Like what made you kind of continue want to tell this story with Magus Newmite included?
Well, I'm so glad that fans took to Magus Newmite because I always intended to at least keep him around for issue 2, right, Andrew? I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say that. I have unrealized plans with Magus Newmite, and if you have caught, he mentions Iolite. He calls Yaira Iolite, which is a different name than we've ever known her from.
Yep.
And that is a big hint to her past and something that you might see in an issue that isn't Yaira 2, so I can't talk about it. But he is a black sorcerer. When he fought her at the volcano and he said magic can't harm me, he was kind of hinting at I'm like a cockroach. I'm not that easy to take out, Yaira. And she much like the fans are like, what's real and what's not? She doesn't even know if this is a nightmare or is he actually still here? Did I not quite kill him? And now he's just using his magic directly against me, which I think is a fun little mystery that you might find some answers to in Yaira number 3.
Yeah, Yaira actions have consequences, and
boy, do they.
There are some consequences that are raining down on the Ice Queen right now, and I think that next book is going to answer a lot of them, but they're going to give you more questions.
Well, I mean, even towards the end, though, she's got a lot like happening. Obviously, you got the reporter talking all the noise that she's talking, like, oh, hey, here's Yaira again. Remember last time, Heckler, she screwed everything up. She's a big screw up, all of this stuff. But also with like, she's entering into these waters, right? And, you got tornadoes going on all over the place. And you have basically the guard essentially shooting at her, right? By the end of it, talking about they're basically shooting. It's just a whole lot going on, right? During this whole deal. So it's like you have to, when handling a character like that, they need challenges, right?
Yeah.
And Yaira is, by the end of this book, going through it. Like she's got this nightmare thing going on. You got Magus Newmite. She thinks she's fighting him. You got fucking like she's actually been shot at by a bunch of these guards. You got the journalists talking all the noise that they're talking about, and it's just all happening at this singular time. And I just love it by the end of this because you're like, wow, this is absolutely a big uphill battle. And then you have Stefania seeing all this play out. She's like, "Oh shit!" Right? Here's my chance.
Stefania's been waiting for this.
Right? She's like, "Oh yeah, now we're about to get busy." And she, absolutely floors Ingrid, right? Like, I mean,
Poor
that is
Ingrid. What you doing to my girl over here?
Oh, sorry, Ingrid fans.
Oh, Ingrid is gonna. Don't worry, Ingrid. Continuity, guys. You don't just punch Ingrid and go on with your life like nothing's
No.
happened.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Consequences.
not at all. Like Ingrid is yeah, she's like, wow, okay, I just got socked there. And again, we're gonna deal with this because this is all by the way, guys, chat, if you haven't read this and you're just hanging out, this is the very end of Yaira #2. So we don't quite see the conflict really start to take its shape, but we see it's about to go down, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited for the audience to see that play out. In that, you know, in that last page, you see kind of the differentiation between what's actually happening to Yaira versus what's actually happening versus what she's seeing.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the beautiful thing, though, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have it. I've seen this in the Discord because I'm super active in there, and all the guys and gals that hang out in the Discord and chat with me in between tasks are fantastic. We have the best fans in the world, and it's not even close.
Agreed.
But they'll say things like, "I kept having to read these pages over again and read this book several times through because I wasn't sure what was real and what was the nightmare. What was she just seeing, but it wasn't actually there, and most people still don't know, and that's good.
I know that's good.
That's good, right?
That. I absolutely love it. And again, big shout out to Deborah because
Yeah.
that's a tall order, right? And big shout out obviously Kaden helping along the way. It's a tall
and Jay
order.
Brown on his colors.
Oh yeah, much
Yeah,
love,
the
Jay Brown,
colors
man.
are sick.
Especially in those sunset colors that he was doing over the water with Yaira. Those were
yeah, man.
chef's kiss.
Jay Brown, man. Big shout out, one of our main colors here. And yeah, man, I'm looking at this whole thing play out. And obviously we know where it's all going, but the audience doesn't. And it's fun that a lot of that conversation is being had where the audience is like, what was real? Like what is real versus what's not. And the reason why I wanted to give a big shout out to Deborah, because that's not like easy, right? Where you're telling two stories like at the same time. You obviously as an artist know, Kaden, like that's not an easy thing to do, but she did it, right? She pulled it off.
It reminds me of I don't know if you guys remember Watchmen, and this is again to the credit to like same scenario with Deborah and the Sox, because writer and artist, the connection. Right. There was a scene in Watchmen where is a sequence where Dr. Manhattan is talking about, he's like at 12 o'clock in 1965, I'm talking to so and so, and at 9 o'clock at 1985, I'm talking to this person, and then today I'm talking to this. It's like this cosmic awareness,
right?
And so as I was reading it, I was like, man, it actually played out like that visually. And you talking about what, in the 80s that they they did this, and it was, and so to see it actually translate to film, I was like, dude, that's exactly how I knew it was gonna happen. Right. So like you said, like the intricacies and the things that like you said, the not knowing whether Yaira is fighting or is it an illusion? Is it happening or is it just in her head?
Right.
It could be partly in her head, partly reality. Is like, you don't know, so that no and to, like you said, for Deborah to be able to draw that and it be understood,
right,
that you don't know whether you're watching a psychosis or if he's actually fighting somebody. Right. Is credit to both of you, the writers and to her as the artist. You guys killed it. So yeah.
Big shout out to Deborah. I love how this ends, and it's just asking. There's it leaves on a great cliffhanger, and it's a lot of questions being asked at the same time that a lot of those do get answered. And 3-3 just really kicks it up. Another notch, guys. You're going to absolutely love it. I hadn't had a chance. I did want to show the poster, right? Because like I love this so much. That we I think I don't know, it might be sold out. I have no idea. I'm not a warehouse guy, so if you can get it, you should. But the cover and this, and between both, obviously similar styles, and our man's Marcos as well as Candy Khan, as well, and how they're able to capture just lighting and all that. It's just the colors on, obviously the art by itself is excellent, but the colors on this is just insane, and we're seeing her sort of emerge from the water. Was that another one of those you're trying to have fun here?
Yep.
Kanan.
That was, I mean, I always like to, it's kind of like starting to become a common thing, man. Like, I always like those images where they show above and below the water at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it adds like a dynamicism to what you're seeing. And so having her emerge, on the surface, which relatively seems calm, and then underneath you see the chaos. It's almost like the whole iceberg. You see the iceberg. I think it was like one of those motivational speaking posters back in the day, but always showed like a little bit of the iceberg at the top. And then you saw this massive like construct of what the iceberg really looks like. And so, just having that dynamic with her, coming out of the water and really like now she's back into the sky and like back where she belongs. It's like, we went here and then now we transition back to, and so you see her in all her glory, man, coming out with her prize, for lack of a better term.
Trident,
yeah, man.
So, Trident, yep. Absolutely love it. It just it's just such a,
I like drawing Yaira, man.
I can imagine she's gotta be a fun character.
Every new Yaira piece by Kanan is my new favorite Yaira piece.
It's so true.
Wait till you see the cover report.
The cover.
So good.
The upcoming covers and posters for the next Yaira installment are freaking crazy, man. I think y'all are going to absolutely love it. So, have some fun with that when we drop those, and we'll keep you posted on when those are going to drop. Before we end up kind of moving on, I do want to talk. Yaira 2, you can still get it. Chat, Rippaverse.com. Go grab that. But just briefly, if you can, sisters, let us know like what you think the audience is going to get from the next installment of Yaira with Yaira number 3.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, boss, it's also your fault, the reaction, because you gave us this great note and we're like, oh, damn. Oh, it even upset me.
I will say that Yaira 1 and 2 are very exciting, and a lot happens, and there's a lot of holy shit, I can't believe that moments.
Yeah.
Yaira 3 is insane.
It slaps hard.
Oh my God. The things that happen in Yaira 3, and there's a lot of questions that you have probably about Yaira and her past and motivations, and you get some big answers, and the answers that you give you oh shit moments, because Yaira has gotten herself in a lot of trouble. That one moment in Yaira number 1 where Stefania gives away Yaira's position on Earth. Man, she has Yaira should be mad at her. She was there since Viking times, just laying low. Nobody had any idea she was there. She was able to have aliases or aliases like Sally Rodell, and now that's gone. She has lost that, and she has to answer for some decisions that she has made in the past.
Actions have consequences. There's a few record skip moments where you're like, oh my God, you're kidding me. Oh my God, you're kidding me. No spoilers, Andrew. It's a good book. So far, so good.
No, I know. I'm just making sure you know.
There's a moment in it that I remember Jen and I were talking about, and we got so excited about it, and that we wrote a lot of the story around it. So Yaira 2 is the setup, and Yaira 3 just it just pays it off so hard.
There's a lot of stuff in Yaira 2 that you don't realize 100% what's going on until you get to Yaira 3. There's a lot of surprises in store for you, and a lot of reveals. A lot of you're gonna learn a lot more about the characters that you might have seen even just briefly in Yaira 2, and you're gonna have at least, I think there's at least 3 holy shit moments.
Yes.
Like 3, not just like, oh, I'm surprised by that, but like, oh, fuck.
I can't believe that happened. And if you thought
Yeah.
Deborah and Jay Brown's art was killer in Yaira 2,
Yeah.
wait till you see the insanity we take it to for Yaira 3. There is
Y'all Michael Bay.
stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
With story.
Oh,
Y'all asked Deborah to do a lot,
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
she rose
She
to the
did it.
occasion.
we got
She
very
rose to the
creative.
occasion.
There was
Visually,
one
Yaira
page that
3
came back
is-
and I was like, oh my god, we asked for that. That's
Yeah.
insane. That must have taken her weeks.
And it was, oh my gosh, there are big things that happen in Yaira 3. And
Yes.
you know, there's a lot of surprises and some
No, Jen, don't.
I won't say anything, but
On
I'm
her lips,
happy
is it?
that Altona is there. I'm happy that you're gonna see what happens with Stefania,
Yeah,
because you can tell she's coming to kick some ass and get a piece of it.
yeah.
And you guys are concerned about what is real and what is a nightmare. You're about to find out what is real and what is a nightmare and why it's happening. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff that happens that you're going to be like, oh man, I can't wait for Yaira 4. What are you going to do to
How are you
her?
gonna follow that?
Because if you thought we left her in a rough place at the end of Yaira 2, at the end of Yaira 3, you're going to be like, she's fucked. She is fucked. I don't know how she's going to get herself out of this trouble, but she is, she's in it. She's in a, yeah.
Yeah. And boss, thank you for writing such a cool character for us to play with. I love it. Every time I see a page come in, I'm just like on cloud 9.
Yeah, it's just such a privilege to get to play with a character that, you know, was perfect as she started, and then we could just build on it. And it's been so much fun, and it's so collaborative too. Like, you'll read it and you'll be like, what about this? And I'll be like, oh my god.
And everybody's a part of it. Like what Kanan just did for Yaira art. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That was fun.
Yeah, right?
It's so good. It's just so much cool stuff happening, man. And it's just like it's fun knowing obviously what's going to happen. And I'm just so excited for the audience to finally get to see that.
Yes.
And I will be, as we all will be, looking at your reactions and learning about what's taking place. You know, because this is so much that goes down in Yaira 3.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's such a great way to cap off at least this particular little arc. But it also has so many more questions and where it's gonna go. And it was a lot of story to tell.
I'll just say bad guys are cool.
Yeah.
No, y'all don't understand. All of the internal artists here at the Rippaverse love drawing all the creepy shit.
Yeah.
Like Igor, Marcos, Kanan, they love drawing the creepy, scary stuff. And they're really good at it, but it's like, man, what y'all okay? Like
it's some fun bad guys, fun Yaira stuff. It's just all around fun. Yaira 3 is going to be quite the story. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. So you can still get Yaira number 2. It is in the store right now. It is just basically, you can order it and we're going to ship it pretty soon. So just go grab it. If you have not already, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us also for another Rippaverse round table. We got Andrew able to join us this time around. And yeah, I will keep you guys posted on the fun stuff that we're going to have for next week. I don't think next week's going to be a spoiler stream. Though Representing 3 will be shipping soon, I don't think it's going to be a spoiler stream. We're going to talk about some other stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun as well. It's just that, you know, with the first couple of episodes, we're backed up on books, so we need to get our spoiler talks in, and then we're going to have some more fun talking about some other things that I got planned for you all. So I appreciate you so much for the continued support. You guys have been incredible. Remember, head over to Rippaverse.com, go grab Zaylin. Go grab ISOM 3 and go grab the Great War of Separation 2. You can go watch the previous episode where we did talk about Great War of Separation number 1. We talked spoiler talk, all that good stuff. So go check that stuff out. You're going to love 2. Trust me, you're going to really, really love Great War of Separation number 2. And it's good. Trust me, guys. It's really good. Appreciate y'all, though. Thank you so much. for hanging out with us. We love doing this. It's our way to connect with all of you each week. But we're going to be back next week, same time, 6 p.m. Central, Monday. And we may have some cool announcements and other cool stuff that we're going to end up doing because, man, there's just so much happening behind the scenes with Rippaverse. So keep it locked there. I see Drunk 3BO as well. You can go to rippersand.com, go grab Achromatic Chronicles Green and Blue. That's still live over there. Those are, again, same thing like with the Yaira too. You can order that. We'll make sure we get it shipped out immediately. Right. So go to rippersand.com and go check that out. All right, guys, we're going to get up out of here. Appreciate Andrew, the sisters, Kaden joining us and having a good old chat about Yaira #2. But we got to get up out of here. We will see you guys next week, same time, 6 p.m. Central to talk whatever we're going to talk. I'll have that by the end of the week. I'll let you know what the topic of discussion will be for next week. So thank you all so much. We got to get out of here, though. Until next time, y'all be easy. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Peace out.
Peace.